The tea in Gilbert politics is so hot. It is almost as hot and sweaty as I am here in Rome. So here's a quickie version of what is going down. The drama is over the 2 legislative seats for LD14, which is the district that represents Gilbert in the State House of Representatives. Leilani Hunsaker's opponents have been on a pretty intense smear campaign for quite some time, but for the Hunsakers, Lauren Hendricks and his people really crossed a line earlier this week. Here's what happened. Lauren Hendricks is running against Leilani, and he told her early on, listen, I'm with the slate. I'm endorsed by the good old boys. You should not bother to run. If you do, we will make sure you lose. And they have been trying to make good on that promise, but Leilani's a hustler, and she's been involved in Gilbert Republican politics for the last 20 years. So their many attempts don't seem to be working. We're getting close to the primary. Everybody's getting a little nervous, and behavior's getting really bad. Lauren Hendricks went at the meeting, the LD14 meeting, and said something to the effect of he had risen above bad-mouthing and above dirty politics because he didn't say that Leilani's son is a Gilbert goon, even though he could have. He didn't show this photograph that's not Leilani's son, but almost looks like Leilani's son, but he did it, so he is playing a clean political game. As you can imagine, Leilani's family was in attendance, including her 14-year-old daughter and her husband and her brother-in-law, and they all erupted in protest to these baseless allegations that are non-allegations but are actual allegations. I think for Leilani and her people, this was probably the last straw, but the tea doesn't stop there. As an aside, no one actually thinks that Leilani's son is a Gilbert goon. The connection isn't even really there, but he was a kicker for ALA Queen Creek's football team. He is now going to college to be a kicker and was a very successful kicker, and prior to that was actually playing soccer abroad. So there's no universe where he's actually a Gilbert goon. Nobody thinks he is. It's just such a sensational thing to lob that her opponent could not help himself from not lobbing that particular possible insult. So what happened next was the Leilani team, stood up and protested, and then the people in charge said, y'all are trespassing, you need to get out. Out in the lobby, further words were being exchanged, people were getting in each other's faces, and there was an allegation made that Leilani's husband, this guy right here, headbutted this guy right here. In my opinion, politics ruins government. Politics seems to get in the way of people actually doing their job and focusing on issues and focusing on problem solving. And what Lauren Hendricks looks at as sharing facts, I think is not sharing facts. So the facts are that Leilani Hunsaker worked for Harry Reid, who was a Democrat, out of college many years ago, because he was in politics and she wanted to get into politics. For over 20 years, she's been involved in Republican politics, and these guys are playing war of who's the most conservative. And who really cares? I mean, I guess there are people out there who care who's the most conservative, but you're not going to win the game of who's the most conservative by smearing whether or not Leilani worked for a Democrat out of college. That's not going to get it done. I think focusing on her position on X is Y, and my position on X is A, would be a much more intelligent, informative, instructive vote. Okay, so finally, there is word that Lauren Hendricks' team is saying that Leilani's husband is going to be arrested for headbutting And then there's all these videos that don't show any actual contact between Leilani's husband's head and this very tall, very angry gentleman. So that's the tea. What do you guys think? Am I out of touch in my independent bubble and you want to see these types of political campaigns? Or would you be more interested if the politicians actually told you where they stood on issues and what they were going to actually do for the families of Arizona?